Alright, so we went to the quadratic functions. So before, just remember, we used to explore linear functions. Linear functions is simply, again, correlation between y and x, or sort of relationship between y and x, so that it can be written in the linear form, so that you can write ax plus b, for example. A, b coefficients, and y and x are those two variables where you're looking for relationships. Okay, so the difference is that for a quadratic function, you need to have quadratic term. Okay, so let's give definition for quadratic function. Quadratic function is just a relationship between those two variables, x and y, that can be written in the following form. So you have y equals ax squared plus bx plus c, and indeed, that's the linear part of the dependency, and ax squared, that quadratic term that I was talking about. So simply x and y are those variables, and a, b, and c are coefficients, or simply just numbers that define probably properties and features of your quadratic function. But this, what is known the general form of the quadratic functions. It's very the same as you used the general form for quadratic equations. However, for quadratic equation, we had x squared plus bx plus c equals 0. So simply, this y in quadratic equations was simply 0. Okay, that's the only difference. However, for the function, normally you need to have two variables that's interconnected with a sort of specific equations. Okay, so but sometimes you might find that instead of y, many people and mathematicians use to write fx. So what's the difference? No difference actually, because y they denote as f, sort of specific rule set up for relationship between x and y. So that specific rule, f means the rule that you use here. So the rule is simply square up the x times a, then add bx, and that add c. That general specific rule for quadratic functions. However, in the brackets you'll see brackets, round brackets, in x. So what they trying to say is, so they trying to say that we have a dependency function f specific rule from x. So simply we consider x as an input parameter or input value. Okay, and as any function, we need to have some y as the output value. All right, so that's how you need to understand. And even for like straight lines and linear dependency, you also might write y from x or f from x, and in this case you'll have linear dependency x plus b. So simply you just, the function tells you, so guys, keywords, the function tells you, give me an input value x, I will calculate according to specific rule denoted by f, or like what's more precisely, I'll just do this, okay, when specific a, b, and c set up by that rule, and I'll give you an output value, which is simply y. So y is simply an output value. Okay, that's how you need to understand what function is and what specifically quadratic function is. Okay, so now we'll get like try to solve two types of problems. So the first, you need to find y value if you know x value. All right, so find y if you know x value. So in other words, you'll be given x for a specific function that you also need to have a specific like expression for that. And let's say we have our function to be 2x squared minus 5x, and let's say plus 3. Okay, so we need to find y value if you know that sort of function that's set up by this specific rule, 2x squared minus 5x plus 3, and when, let's say, value x first is 0, that's the first input, and the second input, x equals 3. All right, so what we're gonna do, we just need to set up the table. If you have like several values, just you have x and you have y as output. And you also have the rule that you set up for your function. Okay, so the first input value is 0. So what we need to do, we just everywhere where your x value stays, we need to put that 0. That's any function works like the way I described. So simply we put 0 whenever it stays. So 2 times 0 minus 5 times 0 and plus 3. And the output result will be simply 3. Okay, that's the output. So y as output. So we'll get the value 3. Okay, so next one. X equals 3. We just put 3. And we put, instead of x, everywhere where it stays, we put the value 3. So 3 squared minus 5 times 3 and plus 3. Okay, now let's calculate. 3 squared is simply 9, and 9 times 2 is 18, minus 15 and plus 3, and what we'll get 3 plus 3, which is 6. Okay, so that's how it works, and we have again output value. So simply what we got for 0, x coordinate will have y coordinate equals 3, and for 3 we'll have y coordinate equals 6. So we can even like set up as simply 2 points that we've got. The first point is 0 and 3, and the second point is 3 and 6. All right, because to visualize, we just need to drop those points on xy plane, and that's what I'm gonna show you right now. So we got 03, we got 3, 6. So 03, let's say somewhere here. That's your first point, and 3 and 6, that's your second point. So 1, 2, 3 for x, and for y, I guess we have something more. So it's going to be somewhere here. All right, so 6 coordinate for y is going to be here. So on the intersection, y equals 6 and x equals 3, we'll get another point. All right, so we set up the points and we can drop the parabola. So because we have 2x squared minus 5x plus 3, we know how it goes. All right, so we can even calculate the vertex point, but for this question it's like not necessary. Just need to simply give the value. We're already given that, so we've already given that, and right now you just need to visualize. That's for your own purposes to understand how it works. Okay, so let's see, 5 over 4 is going to be somewhere vertex, so looks like, so probably because the vertex is negative 5 over 2 over 4, so it's going to be somewhere here. Looks like your parabola will go like this. Okay, but of course for more precision, for more precise drawing, we need to have like more accurate calculations and more dense set of points. Okay, so that was the first type of the question. So find y if you know x value. All right, so next we are going to set up the second type of question. So find x if you know y value. That's sort of inverse task, right? So inverse task. Why it's inverse? Because actually we flip the input and output. So in this case, we need to find input when we're given y value as an output. So that's why it's inverse task. All right, and for this particular purpose, let's consider the following case. Let's say we have y from x equals 2. let's take x squared minus 6x and plus 8. All right, so what we're gonna do, we need to find x value when we're given y value. And let's say for simplicity, y equals -1. In this case, let's set up with just 1 point, not 2. So y equals to -1. All right, so we know y value, and we need to figure out x value from that, having this quadratic equation and quadratic function y equals x squared minus 6x plus 8. All right, what we're going to do, we just need to put -1 instead of y. That works in inverse way. So we simply put -1 instead of y, and we'll get the following equation. Now it's an equation with one variable, and now you need to find x, means solve that, please. All right, so now how to solve that? We need to start transferring all numbers in one side, so collect all terms in one side and equate to 0. That's standard form of the quadratic equation. So we transfer -1 to the right side and we'll get 9 in total, right? And we'll get 0. Okay, so now we got the following. We can do by factorizing. We can solve that by factorizing. So simply make a sketch, the pattern x plus a and x plus b, so that a times b is going to be 9. However, if you add them, you'll get -6. Oh, so obviously, in this case, a is going to be 3, b is going to be 3, but because we need to add up to -6, so we put both minuses, because multiplication will be fair, still fair, because -3 times -3 will get 9, while adding will get -6. Okay, so we found them, and just simply plug them back into this factorized form, from where we can say that by null factor theorem or null factor law, we know that each factor is going to be 0, so we have just two values, x equals 3, that coincide. So from both parts, you'll get the same answer. So that means we've got x equals 3. All right, so there is two solutions, but they're actually coincide. So simply to say, we have one solution. All right, so for a given x, we'll get just one solution. For a given y, we'll get one solution, x equals 3. So if you want to drop as the point, so actually what you've got is 3 and -1. Okay, so in a case, maybe we can consider another case, but try to practice by your own. What if we plug, let's say, 15 minus 8? Yeah, let's plug y equals 15. That's cool. So try with that and try to see how many solutions you'll get. Actually, the answer should have, let me just calculate quick. All right, so -6. Yeah, it's going to be there. This equation, when y equals 15, will have two solutions. So that's why you'll get two solutions. All right, so guys, we just recently explored quadratic function. It was basics, but now I hope you understand how to consider any function as some input value where you put into the function which specify the rule, actually how to calculate having x, how to calculate y, and y becomes an output. So just simple analogy with the phone. Actually, it should be a separate video, but right now I'm gonna show you. So look, if you consider the mobile phone, so you have some buttons, right? You have the screen, so maybe it's all one. Nowadays you have mostly touch screens with less amount of buttons than it was before, okay? But anyway, so if you want to make a call, so what are you doing actually? You're pressing the button. So that's your input. If you want to call some person, you need first to type the person name or just look for for a specific name in the context, right? And then you need to have, so what? You need to dial the number, right? And the functionality of the phone is basically to connect you with the recipient. So actually, there will be an output. So that's primary functionality of the phone. So to establish context and establish connection for two recipients. So actually you're on one side and another person who we're dialing to, so it's on another side. So your input is just searching, let's say, a specific name, press the call button. So the output that functionality delivers to you is establishing connection, and so that you can freely make dialogue with the person. All right, that's very the same how you consider in mathematics. The same input value x and the same output with a specific rule. So rule is there in the black box. If you know how it works, just tell me, give me in comments. If you don't know, I can share it with you guys. If you just leave some comments, that will be interesting. Maybe for those who are going to like dedicate their lives for, you know, computer science, that actually is the purpose of your interest. Okay, so hope you enjoy. We have a little deviated from the primary abstract math and have like comparison with real life examples, but anyway, it's useful. Trust me, in life you'll get lots more than abstract math, right? Even if you're mathematicians. So guys, hope you enjoy. Just put likes on that, give some comments, and we just keep going. Peace out.